How's it going? December 7th, 2021, the day of our Lord. My apologies about my voice. I've been battling a cough. I think I caught in Indianapolis from the Iowa offense. Boom, boom. No, I do have a cough, so I apologize. I'm gonna try and blaze through here, fight through, and but we'll see. We'll see what happens. How is everyone? A lot has happened over the last 4 days. Not much good. I will say that. Hopefully there's some good tomorrow, and then Thursday we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, I would love. First off, follow us up top that way. IA Sports Review on Twitter, Iowa Sports Review on Facebook. Hit the subscribe button. I'm Tom Clos. I'm here every Tuesday. I write at goiowaawesome.com. I'm Classy Hawkeye on Twitter. I'm Classy Hawkeye and Go Iowa Awesome, or Tom Close on Twitter. And you can see myself usually on Fridays during football season. Now that basketball started, here and there, at least weekly. I'm hoping to fit into my schedule. But let's just jump right in. I saw you saw me at a rest stop on I-70. Probably I was with the funeral procession down I-74. I saw that on Twitter. That was a funny comment that the yearly funeral procession. I'm sorry, on I-74. I hope it's yearly. At least that means we're going to Indy every year. Hope this isn't an every 6-year thing. But you should have said hi. Although I probably wasn't in the mood for you to say hi. But anyways, yeah, let's just get into it. What's to say? I mean, there's a couple ways to look at this. One, Michigan's just a flat-out better team, and that's fine. I mean, we accept that. They're arguably, I think they had a claim at number one. I would have put Alabama number one and Georgia 3. I think the committee got that right. But I think Michigan definitely had an argument. I mean, you won the Big Ten with one loss. You had a better loss than Bama did. And you absolutely demolished Iowa on Saturday, 42-3. Yeah, for the second time. It's so weird. In a 10-win season, Iowa goes 10-3, and in 2 of the games I left early. It's weird. And come to think of it, I don't know if I was there at the end of the Purdue game. I think I left them all. That Purdue game was such a blur. And it's just it's not fun. I mean, it was not a fun game. And it was fun for the first 5 minutes. I said to my brother, who's a Michigan fan, who's sitting next to me, Iowa goes down the field and it was right in front of us. We were in the end zone and it looked like, okay, one thing Iowa had to do is score first. I mean, they had to get ahead, make Michigan and, throw the ball. Great play call. I mean, the script was fantastic by Brian Ferentz. It was really the only thing he did well all game. It was a shame that they had the script for the first drive, and then that was it. Mix of Petrus looked pretty good. They couldn't stop Sam Laporta, and had a touchdown Pottebaum trips in the end zone. I mean, he's a fullback, so I can't knock him for tripping on a fade in the end zone. And Shudak misses a chip shot field goal. And, I mean, it sounds so hyperbolic, but at the moment, I turned to my brother who sitting next to me, a Michigan fan, and I said, the game's over. I mean, once Shudak missed that kick, it's not fair to say that the air came out of the team, because I thought defensively and offense, I mean, they worked their ass off. I think it was a coaching failure that they were blown out like they were. They did all they could. I'm not going to say that the team quit or anything, but it just the air came out of me. I mean, it just felt like, because Iowa had gotten a stop. I think it was a 3-and-out on Michigan in the first drive. And it just exited. My soul exited the building. Michigan has the 2 long touchdowns. And then really at 14-3, the game felt like a wrap, and it was. And for Iowa, it was, there's a couple things they had to do. It's funny. They had to win the turnover battle, which they did 2-1. And really a huge interception at the time, it looked like, by Jack Campbell. And and they won the time of possession battle. If you told me they're going to do those two things, I would have taken it all day and said Iowa probably has a 65% chance of winning the turnover battle with this team, this defense. Short field for the offense. Maybe they can at least kick some field goal. But it just it was the worst nightmare. I mean, the offense couldn't do anything outside of the first drive the entire game. Didn't matter who was playing quarterback. I'll get to that in a second. They were missing field goals. And, the defense, 42 points. At the end, it became almost comical. But what's the defense going to do? I mean, you're on the field, short fields, punts getting blocked. I can't knock the defense. The defense is the reason I was even in Indianapolis. So there's only so much that you can do defensively when you have these short fields, and Michigan's, pretty good offensive team running the ball, and it's always the worst nightmare. It was the absolute worst nightmare for Iowa. It was a nightmarish game. Competitively, with what was at stake, one of the worst I've ever been to. Maybe the worst competitively. It's funny. When I was leaving there with about 12 minutes left, it felt like I was comparing it to 15 because I was there in 15 too. And 15 was there was a couple things because it's weird. Like in hindsight, I think about that game, and I'm so just like the team left everything. They did. They left everything out there, and it really was. It was a hideous game, but for Iowa, it's a beautiful game. And but at the time, it was just the worst. This wasn't that bad walking out of there. When I walked out of 15, they just scraped me off the floor. It was, I was looking around at the section I was sitting in. I think I was still on the floor or hunched over in the seat then from the 15 game, whatever seat it was at Lucas Oil. So, it was a completely different feeling, but still it was disastrous. And, I'm definitely in the minority. I understand this, and it's probably not the healthiest thing, but it ruined the entire weekend for me. Like nothing in Indianapolis mattered. And I met with my brother and his friend, and it was a great time, but it just didn't. It took everything out of it, and not even because Iowa lost. I think it was just because it got so embarrassing. And again, it's the scheme. I don't think it's not the kids. The defense just deserved better. It was such a letdown that. Really, once it got to 14-0, the game was over. And even at 14-3 at the half, I was trying to think, is there any way they can win this game? And the only way they could was if Michigan started handing them the ball, fumbling, throwing pick sixes, and it didn't happen. And Michigan's phenomenal, and they won the Big Ten like they should have, and are in the college football playoff, and have a definite chance to beat Georgia. I don't think they can beat Georgia, and who's to say they can't beat Alabama? So Iowa was not going to beat that team if Michigan played anywhere close to their A game, and they did. And that's a team on the mission and the rightful champions. It's just a shame because now, again, it becomes the whole outside of Iowa becomes, we got to realign, and the West is a joke, and Iowa's 10-3, but what do those 10 win? And boy, it just, they went 10-3 and won the West outright, and it just took so much shine off of that. Sorry, I'm grabbing my water. Apologies. But let's get to the quarterback situation. So Petrus starts, which I trusted. Fair it's about because Petrus came in, he made the right decision in the Nebraska game, so I was just going to defer to him. And it was clear though at halftime. The Petrus, it just wasn't. They just needed to switch anything, switch something, switch your offensive coordinator. But okay, switch quarterbacks then. But Petrus comes out for the first drive, it goes nowhere. Then they go to Padilla. Then Kirk has the weird comment that it was an injury, which I don't believe. Maybe I do. Otherwise, what Petrus would have just stayed in the game. I don't know. At that point. People are like, why wasn't Padilla starting? He should have been starting. It was a huge mistake, this and that. I don't even know if that. He could run around, but it wasn't. I think the first drive would have looked a lot like the first drive, and then the rest of the game would look like the rest of the game. I think it was personnel at that point, and scheme. And that's a good comment in the chat about um, fans want to win more than the coaches and some of the decisions the staff makes. I think the Kirk Ferentz roller coaster is, and it's for really, and I'm still, I'm still wrapping my head around this. A lot of people have been Iowa fans much longer than I have. I'm an alum from about a decade ago now, and obviously a huge fan since, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, and maybe others have, but it's like you just have to stay the course no matter what happens. Like, it's always going to be Ferentz ball, no matter what. And it works. It works. You get to Indy. When it doesn't work, you lose 42-3. And he's never going to deviate from that. Like, he's just never going to. And that's what it feels like. So I don't know if it's we want to win more than the coaches, but it's just, it feels like you're just stuck on this ride, which is a good ride. I mean, it is. There's a lot of winning going on, but the highs are great, but the lows are so low, and I think that's how you get, I compared this game to 2016. They lose 41-14 at Penn State, and I'm thinking, this team's done. And then next week they upset number 2 Michigan, and it's just like you just stay that course. And he didn't make any big, I remember that. Ferentz didn't make any adjustments. They just stuck with the personnel they had. They just stayed the court. And so I think that's just part of it. That's why I think, they have a pretty good chance to beat Kentucky, who turns the ball over like crazy. We'll have more on that game in the coming weeks. We got some time. I need a break from this football team. I think that's a fair gut reaction that we care more. I learned, and I wrote about this at Go Iowa Awesome last week, that Nick Saban ran actually taught me something that is very obvious, but I think we just lose sight of. The kids want it so much more than us. Not so much more, a little bit more. I mean, they're out there killing themselves. The kids want it so badly, and that's why I think when it's a disservice to like the defense that they're out there, or when the coaching isn't up to snuff on offense, it's so frustrating like that. So look, there's a lot of questions. The problem again is what is the solution? I mean, this is statistically per game, this is the worst offense Iowa's had under Ferentz, yards per game. And they're 10-3. So are there really going to be changes? His son is the offensive coordinator. I don't think that's going to change. So there's not much, we can do. I think this is just what it is. Now look, there are a couple of things immediate. I mean, you could upgrade the quarterback position. I think that's a knock, and that's a fair knock on Kirk and the staff if they don't, whether it's, if Petrus is just starting next year and it looks exactly the same, that's not good. I mean, that's very frustrating. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, you have a hell of a running back. The wide receiver position has gotten so much better. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's just schematically right now they are broken, and I don't know. I don't know what there really is you can do to fix it. Right in the immediate future, but it's just something we have to talk about going forward and see if they make adjustments. If I don't know. Maybe they run some new concepts. They start recruiting different players because Brian's here to stay, and Kirk's obviously here to stay until the near future, whenever he retires. But Brian's not going anywhere until Kirk retires, at least. And then, unless Brian's the head coach, which I don't think is going to happen. I think you're going to see Iowa's next head coach line up against them on January 1st. We'll get into that, the Mark Stoops stuff later, at a later date, because I also want to hit basketball at some point today. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the comments here. It feels like purgatory. It does. But is oh God. I don't want to lose sight of the 10-3, and they won a lot this year, and I don't want one game to change all that. I think the problem is God, on these big stages, you look at the Rose Bowl and you look at this game and you look at some of the big games really until the Penn State game this year, and they've just come up short. They just can't. And I mean, the Rose Bowl in this game getting absolutely throttled and just looking outclassed. And yeah, it feels like purgatory. It does. But I don't know where. Like, I guess we're just. I don't want to say stuck here, because I will say this. In the defense of the coaching staff, which isn't popular. The talent level, and this may include a certain recruit that we'll mention in a moment here committing tomorrow, but the talent level at Iowa, since I was in school there 10 years ago, it is dramatically better. I mean, it really is. You can just see it from what they were. They were on this track of, never having a receiver, which was they did for a couple years. They couldn't even really get good running back recruit, like top running back recruits. I don't want to say not good running back recruits, top running back recruits. It was, defensively, you're seeing them in the mix more for, 4 and 5 stars. And look, Desmond King was a 2-star, so he became a 5-star. But the talent level at Iowa, whether or not the rankings show it or whatever, you can just see that they're better. This defense is as good as really the early Ferentz teams. It's phenomenal. And so I think they've done that. It's funny, if Brian Ferentz wasn't the offensive coordinator, it seems like this is just an easy fix. Like, it's, all right, replace whoever's calling plays and bring in a new guy and revamp the offense. Like, we're done. So, and that's just the sticking point, and that's the dirtiness or stickiness of nepotism. Look, you could keep Brian as a co-offensive coordinator, maybe have somebody else call plays, KOK. There are a couple things you could do, but we're kind of hamstrung there. And the program is, because look, it's Kirk's call, and he's not going to fire his son. And so that's that. And so I don't know. I think I need more time to digest. I do know this. Horrible offense. Historically bad offense for Iowa under Ferentz, and really a really, really good defense that I'm glad. One of the big things coming out of this season is I'm glad this defense was able to play in the Big Ten championship game, and that they got there, because this defense was too good to waste. At least too good to waste in not winning a trophy, and they won a trophy, and that should be celebrated. And I wrote about enjoying the ride last week on Go Iowa Awesome, and I really mean it. Win or lose going into that game, the season was a complete success. It really was. This is a young team. There's a lot to like coming. There's a lot coming back. There's a lot to like coming back. I thought the offensive line. Look, there's excuse me, a video going around of Jack Plum getting trucked by Aiden Hutchinson, who's going to be in New York Saturday. And if you haven't seen the video clip, you'll see it Saturday during the Heisman ceremony if you watch it. But it's, that Michigan has 2 NFL ends rushing the quarterback there, so I don't want that to be. And that's the problem with this game. And good thing they get to play the Citrus Bowl too, because so often, and then this is college football is the greatest, but it's the worst too. I'll never forget that Michigan State team that beat Iowa in 2015 to get to the college football playoff. They won the Big Ten, went to Ohio State, won a game, won the Big Ten in a thriller with Iowa. They play Alabama in the playoff game and get shut out. I think it was 38-0. And this Michigan State team, it's almost like laughable when people talk about them. Like, it's like they're a joke. Like, oh yeah, they got killed. Like, that was a garbage team. They won the Big Ten. They won 12-1 or 12-2. Like, and so I don't, and that's the thing with Iowa and Michigan. The other frustrating thing is I don't want this to be, and they get to play one more game, but I don't want this to be what this team was, because it wasn't. There was a lot of bad on offense, but the good on defense far outweighed the bad, because they won 10 games and they got to Indianapolis. And that's the shame. That's the shame that everyone's watching Iowa, Michigan that night, and that's what happens. And that's the frustrating thing. And that's part of the roller coaster ride with Ferentz that's maddening, is that. Because it feels like in a lot of ways, and it shouldn't. And I don't believe this, but if somebody said, boy, that took the steam out of everything this season. I can't fight it initially, at least. In the grand scheme of things, this was one of Kirk's most accomplished teams, one of the, winning wise, one of the better teams in school history. I mean, they have a chance to go 11-3, win the Citrus Bowl, won the West. And so I don't want it to get lost in this malaise of their garbage and, no, the offense is garbage. That defense was too good to deserve that kind of beating. But it is what it is. Yeah. So go out and blow out Kentucky, and maybe we can flip the narrative a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that's just looking at the comment here. I'm sorry. There's a video from all Power 5 games of our line on their ass. Yeah, look, it was a work in progress this year, and by game 10, you knew it wasn't going to get much better. Although, when they finally started playing, stringing games together without the injuries, I thought it became solid. Now, you're losing Linderbaum with, I would expect, but most of that line's coming back, and so I wouldn't be surprised though if you see a transfer. Them hitting the portal for some offensive line help, because it can be a strength next year. We know they're going to try and run the ball. That's a fact. I don't know if they're going to throw much. But anyways, the quarterback decision, I didn't think it mattered. Honestly, it was the right call to go to Padilla, but it should have done at the beginning of the second half. I just think he gives you a little better shot. I also thought, and I didn't mention this last week, and I kind of thought of this when I was driving to Indianapolis, so hindsight's 2020, but I thought maybe they shouldn't have just announced Petrus. I mean, it was like Monday they announced Petrus was starting. And I don't know, why not keep Michigan on their toes? Why announce it all? Let's just see who comes out and takes the first snaps. Who knows? Because Padilla is different. I mean, there is a little bit difference in that. So that was kind of weird, but it really didn't matter. I mean, they were getting dominated at the point of attack on really both sides in the second half. The defense, I thought, was, look, it's tough. You give up the 2 long touchdowns. I saw a lot of people, well, if we didn't give up those 2 touchdowns, well, yeah, but they did. I thought the defense played really well in that second quarter, and kept Iowa in it, and the offense just couldn't give them anything, even a touchdown. Or even 14-6 if Shudak makes that first kick. You're like, okay, it's a 1-score game, but 14-3 at the half, it was a wrap. And I touched on this a second ago. It was a shame for several reasons outside of they just lost the game by 39. The opportunity. And that's why I don't want the season to just go to the wayside and be taken for granted, because it had been 6 years since I'd been in that building, for that Michigan State game. I don't want it to be 2028 before I return, and running into the real Hayden on the I-74 rest stop. I don't. I want to be there next year and the year after, and hopefully win one of these damn things. So at Iowa, it's such an opportunity. And look, Michigan had never been there. I think that underscores what a big opportunity is. Who knows if they'll ever be back? You got to beat Ohio State. But Iowa, it's like when you get these chances, you just want to take advantage. Like you don't play winner take all games for the Big Ten title often. And again, I mean, Michigan ended up being better than Ohio State, but you didn't run into Ohio State again for the second time in Indianapolis, and you're 0-2. That's a shame. It's just a shame. It's a missed opportunity that doesn't come by often at a place like Iowa. I'm just going to touch real quickly on the Citrus Bowl. We'll talk about it more in the next couple weeks. And that comments. It's one of the best defenses the Real Hayden's seen in 20 plus years of watching Iowa football. 100%. I mean, that game, and that's, again, it's not indicative of that defense. That defense, they're missing Matt Hankins too. They warriors. I mean, I was at most games this season, and I mean, to see an Iowa defense, and Iowa's had some really good defenses under Phil Parker, but like that Iowa State game was a wrap for the last 25 minutes, and I mean, that Iowa State team, 7-5, but that offense was pretty good. That was Breece Hall, and that was a pretty good team. I do think. And, that Penn State game, they knock out Clifford, and they did so much good. The 8 interceptions at Maryland, it was just so much good from that defense. making plays all year and set the school record for interceptions. And hopefully they can go out with a bang against Kentucky because it was so fun to watch them. The Kentucky Citrus Bowl, it's interesting. I think it's a pretty big game for Iowa. Not that it, in the grand scheme of things, means a lot, but they still finished 15th in the playoff poll, and whenever Kentucky, you're looking at what 13th, 12th, maybe at the most. But this is a good team. It's a good Kentucky team, solid team from the SEC. They turn over the ball a lot. And look, it's going to be you got a nice time slot leading into the Rose Bowl. And it's another moment to showcase the brand and to show off the brand and prove that Michigan game was a one-off. And yeah, offensively they will be bad. They've been bad all year. But defensively it's going to rest on them again. But we'll get more into that going forward. I do think it's kind of an important game just to get the taste out of their mouths of this Big Ten championship disaster and really head into the offseason on a really good note. I'm going to butcher his name. Xavier Wankpa. I've heard it a million times. I don't know if that's how you say it. Southeast Poke, he's out here. Makes his decision tomorrow, in case you don't know who he is. He is the number 1 safety in the nation, recruit, and the number 11th player in overall in the class of 2022. He's announcing his decision tomorrow where he's going to commit to play football. It's down to Iowa, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. I was reading in the Register today. There's a good article there that it is really down to Iowa and Ohio State in all likelihood, especially with Brian Kelly moving on. And it feels like he's going to commit to Iowa. It feels pretty good. There was a picture on Twitter of Phil Parker, Jay Neiman, and Kirk in Xavier's living room, and they all look really excited. That being said, it's a high school recruit. If he goes to Ohio State, more power to him. They have a really good program. We all know. Hopefully we see him in black and gold. But keep an eye on that because that would be a huge get for Iowa. And what a great moment for him and his family if he chooses. I mean, hell, you get to choose to go to play football at Notre Dame, Ohio State, or Iowa. You must be really good. But that's another example of Iowa being in the mix for these types of guys. And I think it's something you see in basketball where Fran has elevated the program where they're in the mix. Now, he needs to start getting them more. But Iowa's they're in the mix and they're getting these big recruits more. And it's good to see. Real quick on the comment there about Orlando, because I had the same thought. I've been to all these games. I think I've missed 2. Northwestern and Nebraska. I can't do it. I just can't. It's a lot. It's a lot of money. The other thing is flying anywhere from the Midwest. I'd have to fly from Michigan to go down there, and it's a lot of money. Michigan's where my family is. But hey, I mean, I've been to the Citrus Bowl. It's a great time. If you can get down there, I would do it. If you want great weather, go down there. I'm sure it'll be snowing here. And it should be a pretty good game, actually. That will be one of the more interesting games, especially January 1st, leading right into the Rose Bowl. But I'm the same way. I'm really like this. I gotta be honest, as you can tell, I'm like worn out. Like I'm almost like I played. Like I need a break. I need a break from the football team and going to these games. It'll be nice just kind of sit back and watch that at home. But if you get down there, more power to you. It's a great time. Couple more things on football. The Deuce Hogan thing, touch on it real quickly. His mother came out and said that the Kirk Ferentz joked after they beat Nebraska that he would have stayed in Iowa City if Deuce had to play because his other 2 quarterbacks had the flu, something along those lines. It's pretty convenient, I think. Whatever. The kid's leaving. I thought the timing of him announcing it leading into the Big Ten championship game was a little strange for a team player. But whatever, he'll transfer. It's all good. He'll leave as Deuce Hogan will leave as probably the most beloved quarterback that never played a snap at Iowa. Or he played a couple snaps, but a meaningful snap. It's a weird. It was a weird. I thought it was a strange, just kind of interesting tongue-in-cheek comment by Kirk that got blown way out of proportion by his mother, and it's coming out now. I mean, everyone and their mother knew he was leaving by October, it seemed. And with all due respect, if he couldn't crack the top two in this quarterback room right now, then I don't think it was ever going to happen. So, yeah, that's the Deuce Hogan thing. And it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Tyron Trace entering the portal. True Warrior. He had that weird tweet a couple weeks ago that got deleted. I mentioned it on the show about not getting the ball and not feeding your players. But he's a Warrior. It was a good get for Iowa out of Indiana. He hits the portal. He'll probably end up at Purdue and then torch Iowa next year in West Lafayette. I look forward to that. I'll always remember he scored that first touch. I think it was the first touchdown of the Holiday Bowl when they beat USC a couple years ago on a reverse. And when he walked in the end zone, he put up the victory. Always remember Tyrone, great Warrior. You could see that coming. You know, I mean, the crop of freshmen this year alone, Keegan Johnson, Arlen Bruce, it was the writing was on the wall. But I look forward to seeing where Tyrone goes, and definitely be a big fan of him. And unless I was playing Purdue and he torches us, so I'm guessing Purdue. Who knows? He might end up in Indiana or in the MAC or something. But farewell, Tyrone. You're a great Hawkeye. Yeah, one more thing. The Deuce situation doesn't add up. Yeah, he's just better off. He's better off moving on. And that's that. I mean, that's why he's leaving. He's better off moving on. He wasn't going to play. Joey Labas, from all indication, is the real deal. They're really excited about him. That's the freshman quarterback they had right now. Carson May's coming in, I think, in the summer. And I didn't put this together, but there seems to be a belief that either Petrus or Padilla is leaving. One of whoever's, out of, and I don't think it's going to be that cut and dry until at least after spring, because I can't imagine coming out of the Citrus Bowl, win or lose, that, they're like, yeah, Alex is the guy. I mean, because even in the Tax Slayer Bowl, the Hawk Slayer Bowl, the after the game when Kirk made the "that's football" comment, but lost to Tennessee in 2014, even then you could see Beathard was giving them a better chance to win than Rudock. I can't sit here and say that definitely. There seems to be this belief that like Padilla is going out there and he's Patrick Mahomes. Now look, I think he gives them a slightly better chance to win just from his skill set, but the way Iowa calls plays, it doesn't really matter. So there seems to be this belief that one of them is just going to immediately transfer. I think there'll be a quarterback competition at least in the spring. Hell, they both might transfer if the freshman beats them out. I don't know. But that's something to keep an eye on. Iowa brings in, I think, one quarterback a cycle, it seems. And so I guess it wouldn't be that shocking. I just don't think it's going to happen immediately because the job seems pretty wide open. And that's a bow on football. Again, next week I'm on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. We'll touch more on football leading into the Citrus Bowl. I want to hit basketball, though, because I was able to take in that game last night from Carver. Just real quick, before we get to the game, I saw like people online were criticizing the Carver crowd and it wasn't packed and it wasn't this. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, the 90-year-old sitting at Carver telling people to sit down because they're cheering too loud. It's holding, I think, the atmosphere back. There's a lot of that. I understand that. It was 6 p.m. on a Monday. It was about 5 degrees outside. I had to work all day in Des Moines or in Iowa City. That meant I had to wake up early and drive from Des Moines to Iowa City just to go to the game. And then I had to drive back. It's easier said than done. The game was at 6. The game wasn't at 9. So I thought it was unfair. I mean, I was looking around at halftime. I was on Twitter and people were like, oh, it's crowd. It's pathetic. I remember Iowa, Illinois meant something more. Looked around at the crowd and it was just like, I was like, I thought it was pretty good. So I didn't understand that. We'll see. I mean, now they have a couple of cupcakes coming in at home. But just a note on the Carver crowd, I must have missed what people were talking about. This team, it's sort of just indicative of what this team is last night. There's no question that Illinois is a better team talent-wise because they have Kofi Coburn. And I actually thought, it was, the second half, and I was like, where is he? Like, he didn't have a foul. He just wasn't doing anything. And he woke up, torched Iowa, and Iowa can't rebound. They have no size and can't pull a rebound, and defense is still pretty shaky against really good teams. And that was it. And the second chance points were obscene. Let's see, Iowa only turned the ball over. God, it's crazy looking at the stat line. Iowa turned the ball over 4 times. Illinois turned it over 18 times, and Iowa lost the game by 4. Rebounds 52-23. I mean, that's the game right there. And then free throws. Iowa missed 6 of them. Illinois took 9 more too. But the second chance points were crazy. But Iowa, you can't give up 52. You can't lose the rebound battle by almost 30 against anyone, let alone an All-American led Big Ten team. And that Illinois team's good. They're not great. And when I say great, I'm talking about Purdue. They're not great, but they're very good. And so I can't say, it's a home game. It's not a bad loss, though, because again, if this team, it was clear Keegan Murray for most of the game, he didn't look like banged up or anything, but he wasn't himself for a lot of the game. Just wasn't assertive. I think he had 2 points at the half, something like that. Took over late in the game, got him back in it. But and that leads me to if he's not going Super Saiyan, if he's not at his best, there's just a definite ceiling on this team. And it's a lot of nice parts, but he's the straw that stirs the drink, as Reggie Jackson put it. So and you just saw it on display, and it's a maddening team because they go on those. I think it was a 21-2 run. Looked like a tournament team. Looked like a team that heck could beat Purdue. They're making plays, and then they went into a lull again, and they're missing shots and not turning it over, but they're missing shots and missing free throws and can't get a rebound. And I think that's just what this team is now. You couldn't have had a tougher slate to start Big Ten play. You play the number 1 team in the country on the road, and one of the better losses you'll probably ever see without Keegan Murray. And then a really good Illinois team is 2-0. So you're tough luck 0-2 now. And Big Ten play ramps back up in January. Look, I'm not worried about the 0-2 in Big Ten play. This team was never going to win the Big Ten. I think upper half to top 6 in the Big Ten is a really realistic goal. And then maybe you can go a little bit beyond that. But, again, you got another tough one Thursday at Iowa State. And Keegan Murray is going to be the X factor. He's the best player on the floor of both teams. Ken Pom is Iowa, a 4-point favorite. You should go win that game. If he's 100%, I think they will. It's tough at Hilton. It always is tough at Hilton. It's a nightmare at Hilton. Iowa State's the surprise darlings of the nation. Nobody saw this coming. They're 8-0. They have a top 10 win. They have 2 ranked wins. They're number 17 in the country. They just won at Creighton very impressively by 6. So they're rolling. That being said, I think Iowa's better. And we'll see what happens then. But I think last night you just saw that, with Murray, like if that game goes another 10 minutes and Murray's going off, Iowa probably wins the game. You could say that a lot of games, but so they're there. They're right there. This isn't an Iowa team that's just, I'm wondering if they're going to make the tournament or if they're going to. I think, provided health, I think this is a definite tournament team. Now what does that mean? I don't know, a 7 to 10 seed. I think right where we kind of thought. But I think this is a tournament team. The Big Ten's tough again. Looked bad early in the season. All of a sudden, everyone's good again. So you're going to have a lot of opportunities to win games. You're going to have to win tough games. And you couldn't have had a tougher opening. And probably the only thing tougher would have been at Purdue and then at Illinois. So it's a shame. It's a tough luck 0-2 in the Big Ten. The win over Virginia means a lot more now because now they lost the next 2. But none of us thought they were going to win at Purdue. I thought they had a good chance last night. Look, you lost by 4. I'm not going to kill them for it. You know, and Illinois is a really good team. This wasn't a bad loss. This is not a bad team. It's a very, very good Illinois team. That being said, the rebounding, again, 52-23. If that happens, you're not beating anyone. I mean, you just aren't. And I get it. Not a lot of size. God, there's one lineup out there when they took Rebracha out, and it was like I was taller, I think, than everyone on the floor. I'm 6'3". I know I was taller than everyone on the floor for Iowa. And looking at Rebracha versus Coburn, I mean, it's like a guy trying to push over a tank. Like Coburn is he's a tank out there, and they did a really good job, I thought, in the first half of making him uncomfortable. And he got comfortable though, and that was it. But you know, they're right there, and with Keegan Murray, they're going to win many games in the Big Ten, and they're going to lose many games in the Big Ten. This is just it's going to be a roller coaster of a season. I'm trying to just enjoy it. You know, now if they lose like not conference games, they lose 5 in a row. Okay, we can start to panic, but I'm not panicked. You know, I'm expecting a win tomorrow or Thursday. It's a tough game at Hilton against a better Iowa State team. So we'll see, but it's a big game. I mean, it's always a big game, but now Iowa kind of needs a win to stop a losing streak. Then they have that weird game against Utah State in South Dakota. That should be all Iowa fans who's a Utah State fan. And then that's it. A couple cupcakes. Maryland will come to Iowa City on January 3rd. And then we're into Big Ten play the rest of the year. So tough luck start. I liked what I saw, though, to be honest. You know, somebody mentioned it, Rebracha's free throw percentage. You know, I got to look that up, too. It's funny because I didn't really notice he was a bad free throw shooter. And then the end of the Virginia game happened when he was missing the crucial ones. And then it now is a thing. Now he couldn't make any yesterday as well. And it seemed to have rubbed off on the team. And so that's something to watch. Because Iowa, under Fran, gets the line more than anyone in the country. They got to make free throws. One other thing about last night, too, and then I'll probably wrap just because I'm really working this throat right now. But Jordan Bohannon, maybe I got caught up in the romance of him being like a 75th year senior and making threes and making circus shots. But if he's not making circus threes and doing what he did against Virginia, I don't know where he fits in on this team. I mean, and you saw it. I mean, he played only 17 minutes. You know, guys like Tony Perkins, who was just phenomenal yesterday. I mean, he took over the game. He goes 6 for 8, 16 points, steal. You know, he was good. I thought Aaron Eulis defensively on the ball was very good. 11.7 rebounds, 3 dishes. You know, I mean, there were some really those two have improved. And Chris Murray, you know, he wasn't great yesterday, but 8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. You know, he's starting to look at, there's moments with his moves where I'm confusing him and Keegan. I have to look at the number. I mean, he's gotten better every single game. And so that stuff's great to see. You know, it really is. And to see these guys playing and contributing, because there's a lot of question marks on a lot of these guys. You know, and Toussaint, sometimes you get good Toussaint. Last night was bad Toussaint. He goes 1 for 7, turned the ball over, had 2 points only. Still had 3 assists, but Rebracha, what was it? He went 1 for 2 from the line. Okay, so I guess better than at Virginia. But you know, Bohannon, I'm trying to figure out in the rotation where he fits in, and I don't see it right now, other than he's hitting his threes. If he's hitting his threes, then I guess he's just playing, you know, major minutes. But if he's off at all, then he's probably not going to get much play. I mean, I'm just looking at the Virginia box score. He took 9 threes. He played 31 minutes and scores 20 points. You know, last night, his split, he played, 16 minutes, 17 minutes. I'm sorry. It scored 4 points. So I think that's something to watch, where he fits. And, you can see it. Fran's not forcing him in this rotation if he doesn't fit in the rotation. So that's just something to keep an eye on, because he's a zero-sum defensively. Really, if he's not hitting threes, he can't really get to the rack. It's interesting to see what they do with him going forward. And so look, Thursday, big game at Iowa State. Like I said, KenPom is Iowa 4-point favorite. Go out, get that W. Iowa State can't beat Iowa in any sport, it seems now. Women's basketball is going to kick their ass tomorrow in Ames. The men hopefully do it Thursday, and then we'll be back on next Tuesday. Look, tomorrow, Adam's on at 7 Central. He'll probably be talking a little bit about Xavier Wankpa and his commitment to wherever. Please don't threaten him if he doesn't choose Iowa, Ohio State, or Notre Dame, or find places to play football. I don't think people will threaten him. By all indications, a great kid, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. It would be a great get for Iowa and really something to lift everyone's spirits. But we'll see. It is what it is. And Adam will be on. He'll touch on football. I probably have a lot to say about the Michigan debacle, basketball, the Illinois game. I know he probably won't have a cough like I do and a bad throat like I do. So thank you for bearing with me. And let's put a bow on it there. Follow us up at the top at IA Sports Review, and on Twitter, Iowa Sports Review on Facebook. Thanks for joining along, everybody, and for the participation. This is Tom Clos. Catch my stuff on Go Iowa Awesome weekly and sporadically throughout the basketball season. I will see you next Tuesday, same time, same place, 7 Central. Have a good one. Go Hawks. Good night, everyone.